Yes.
So, continuing with the question she had asked, but not necessarily the healing part. It's more of how, like, more and more cases of, like, whether it's adults or young kids, remembering their past lives, as far as remembering when there was someone previous here on earth who did their thing, died, and then came back as a kid to remember. So would you say that, would that be like karma for something they probably did like in probably like 2 or 3 previous lives? The reason why they see themselves moving like more here on earth walking, or would you say because like they're getting closer to removing like the materials and everything that we supposedly need in our lives? Or what would you say about that?
For people who
can remember their
previous life.
Actually.
Yeah. There's different, what you call cities, material cities. One, remembering your past is one city. Being omniscient is also a perfection called city. People can look into the future. So these cities can be achieved by yoga practice. In our Bhakti Yoga, we don't have any desire for material cities because it will detract from the goal of pure love, prema. But if people have it, there's a carryover into the next life. Just like if you practice elevation of consciousness, if your consciousness is elevated in this life 25%, then spiritual consciousness is never lost. You keep it with you. So the next life, wherever you're born, automatically that 25% reserve will be there in your consciousness. You know, you're born and you're young, but gradually as you mature, certain things you'll understand automatically. And this is explained in chapter 6 of the Bhagavad Gita. That automatically a person who has practiced yoga in the previous life, in the next life you'll automatically again begin where you left off. So also with cities, people who have certain perfections, it will carry over in certain cases in a person's life. And he'll be able to know, or have recollection of what he was doing in that previous life. It's a very rare case. So, therefore there's no loss. If you begin your spiritual life now, even if you only get up to 10 or 20% understanding of who you are and what is your self, it's carried into your next life. The only thing that can destroy your spiritual development is if you offend an exalted spiritual person. That's called aparad. This is the only thing that will completely uproot your spiritual development. If you offend somebody who's on a very high level, by criticizing them, by beating them, by blaspheming them, even not by feeling happy seeing them. And we never know who is actually a spiritually evolved person. Like I was in India. In India, sometimes people will have, very elevated consciousness, but you think if anybody from here went there, they'd think he's just a homeless, nonsense. But he may just be living like that out of preference, without any material possessions, and just begging for an existence from people, but he may be very exalted. And there's many stories in the Bhagavatam too about many offenses committed by persons and the reaction they got. One rishi was very ugly. Like Vyasadeva, the person who wrote the Vedas, he was not very beautiful. He was a lot of hair, and even when in Indian times, many years ago, if a person couldn't get a child, his brother could option and get the child for him. So when Vyasadeva's brother could not beget children, Vyasadeva was called to produce children to his 2 wives. But because he was so ugly, the first wife, closed her eyes. She couldn't stand to look at him. And after he impregnated her, her son became Dhritarashtra. Mahabharata, Dhritarashtra was born blind. Because his mother, she closed her eyes when she was impregnated. And the other son was Pandava. And Pandava was very pale. So when that woman was impregnated by Vyasadeva, she became, like pale with fright. And Pandava was the son. So, where was I going with all this? So anyway, ultimately we will come back to the principle of consciousness. Everything can be secured spiritually and continued in the next life. So the purpose is, of course, to become 100% God conscious, and then there's no more repetition of entering the mature world again.